Jai Saparika Shri Sri Guru Goranga Radha Shama Sundar Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Vajasto Tarasata Sri Srimad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Kuru Choramani Sava Shastra Siddhanta Vit Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Leela Pravishtam Vishnupad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Rupanuga Gurubhagya Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadha Sivasati Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai all the assembled devotees Ki Jai Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Alright, so welcome everybody to our Sunday afternoon broadcast from East London branch Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, and as always we are going through the books of our Guru Bharga, and currently on the Divine Servitor, and which is a collection of talks by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. So, this is Srila Govinda Maharaj speaking. By the will of the Lord, Trikala Darshi Rishis have made the laws, and those are recorded in the scriptures. They make the laws, but the laws are for whom? That is necessary to know. The law is not for those who are perfect persons, but the law is for the sinners and offensive persons. The Paramahamsas always see everything as property for the service of Krishna. The Paramahamsas use everything in that way, and therefore no fault touches them. But everybody must follow the rules and regulations so as not to disturb the environment here in this mundane plane. But where everybody is perfect, then there is no necessity for making laws. If nobody sins, then there is no necessity for having prison houses. In every country there are many prison houses, but there would be no necessity for these if everybody was perfect. The pure devotees are always perfect, and so it is not necessary to make any restriction or rules for them. They are doing what is good for the service of Krishna, and that is the rule they are following. They are not disturbing others. Therefore, there is no necessity for laws and restriction. In such a plane, everyone's mood is to serve others and not to take for themselves. That is the service world, and in that world there are no problems. What disturbances may be seen there are for the nourishment of the pastimes of Krishna. Well, I think we already did this one, right? Last week, yeah. So, it's all good. Every time we can read, but anyway, so honor it properly. So this is actually part 3 of the book then, which is Answers Through Letters. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj is known the world over by the affectionate but reverential name Srila Guru Maharaj. He disappeared from his manifest pastimes in this world on 12th of August 1988. Since that time, his dearmost and topmost divine servitor and successor Acharya, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj, has been increasingly involved with the direct guidance of Srila Guru Maharaj's mission and devotees worldwide. Srila Govinda Maharaj himself is our shining example of exclusive devotion to Srila Guru Maharaj, and his radiance is felt by countless fortunate souls around the world through his replies to their letters. So this chapter is replies to letters. So this is a question from one letter. I used to help in the local preaching center, but that has closed down. Therefore my service has stopped, and I have gradually become isolated from my godbrothers. What am I to do? At present, myself and family are worshipping the pictures of Srila Guru Maharaj and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Would it be all right to have a Sri Murti of Srila Guru Maharaj made for our altar? I would also greatly appreciate some personal information about Srila Guru Maharaj, such as his favorite prasadam, bhajan, shlokas, etc. Srila Govinda Maharaj's reply. In general, we shall try always to associate with the devotees who are in the same line as ourselves, who are further ahead, and who are favorable in their mood of assistance to us. Therefore, if we can associate with those who are going in the line of Srila Guru Maharaj, that will be good, otherwise not. If you have no association of good Vaishnavas, then you can take association from Srila Guru Maharaj's books and instructions, with serious endeavor to put into practice the advice found there. When Srila Guru Maharaj was directly present, he constantly gave his association in order to guide souls as fallen as ourselves on the path of the ultimate good. Now in his absence, he remains present as our guardian in the form of his direct representative, dear associates, and the Chaitya Guru, who reveals the path of the highest good. Srila Guru Maharaj's presence is found in his messages, in his instructions, in his guidance, and in each particle of every single atom of his established place of bhajan, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. With the vision and service to the holy abode, we can directly witness and realize this extension of his divine service, this wealth of his divine service. Srila Guru Maharaj himself many times said that in pursuit of the highest ideal, it may sometimes be necessary to march on alone when favorable association is not immediately available by the side of a devotee. Before installing any Sri Murti, it is absolutely necessary to see that Sri Murti is not a doll. It is necessary that not only the present savour can be done nicely, but also that in the future, for our lifetime and also after that, the service can be properly continued. Please carefully consider, and with an honest heart you decide. Srila Guru Maharaj's favourite preparations included natural orange juice with just a little sugar, chola dal, aloo bhaja, fried potatoes, and every day he would take muri, puff rice. He would very much like to take puris with aloo bhaja, and also he liked aloo dum and samosa. There are many shlokas and bhajans that he much appreciated and liked, especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs from Sharanagati, Kabe Habe Bolo, Tunha Doya Shagara, Ki Jani Ki Bole, Emana Durmati, Radha Kunda Tata. Also Srila Narottam Das Thakur's bhajans, Hari Hari Bhaja Shela, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, and also his own compositions, Sujanar Buddha Radita. He would always be reciting many different shlokas, and included amongst them, he particularly liked many of the shlokas in chapter 2 of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela. That also is my experience with Srila Guru Maharaj in Navadvip, that whenever he would take bath, he was always, reciting some shloka. As when he was taking bath, that was the time that we got opportunity to clean his rooms. So he's in the bathroom, but you can hear him. And usually he's chanting Chaitanya Astakam of Rupa Goswami, of which I think there may be 3 or 4 different versions, but he would chant those. And I heard from his secretary's wife, Anuradha, as that was her everyday duty. Sometimes we got opportunity, but her everyday duty was, one of those was to clean Guru Maharaj's rooms while he was taking his bath. And she told me that sometimes he would spontaneously spontaneously compose songs about Lord Chaitanya in English. And I said to her, oh, you should like put a microphone by the, like, try, and she said, no, I couldn't do that. It was his private thing. But anyway, that was his like daily activity, something like that. So here, this is another question from another devotee, from a letter. I have heard it said by the devotees that there is no such thing as love in this mundane world. Can you explain this statement? And Govinda Maharaj's reply. It is true that there is no word in English to correspond with the divine love mentioned in the scriptures. Love and prema are not the same. Each jiva soul has 3 kinds of qualities: willing, feeling, and thinking. But in this mundane world, the jiva soul is covered by illusion, that is called maya. The jiva soul in his clean position always worships his beloved lover, and that is Krishna, and that is the only duty he thinks of. The natural duty in the transcendental service world is love. The transcendental world is full of love. Krishna is infinitely loving. He gives love infinitely, but by giving his love to one, he is not reduced thereby, so that he would not then be able to give his love to others. Mostly all the jivas are going there to that plane of the transcendental life of love. But unfortunately, a few souls come here to this world. In this mundane plane, there are always searching for love. But here, pure love is not to be found. There is the plane of renunciation, the plane of dedication, and the plane of exploitation. Real love is seen in the plane of dedication, and that is the transcendental world. By nature, the jiva soul is living. He must do something, and he is doing, but in this mundane plane, his activity is always with the illusory plane of exploitation. Here, everything is exploiting everything else. But in the plane of dedication, there is no possibility for exploiting, only for serving Krishna and his associates. There, whoever is taking and whoever is giving, everybody is extremely happy. Someone is eating an apple. The devotee is happy, and the apple is happy. Everyone is happy. That is Krishna Loka, Brajadam. Srila Rupa Goswami gave a description of what love is. Bhyatiya bhavana vartma jas chamatkara barabhu riddhi sato jwale badam swadate se sa raso mataha. Whatever is the extreme point of what we can guess here to be love, real love is far beyond that. What kind of happiness, joyfulness, and fulfillment of life is there, we cannot guess from this mundane position. But in Shuddha Satta, in the heart free from the covering of illusion, then that ecstatic ocean can be felt. In the mundane plane, what we see to be love is just a tiny shadow of those feelings. Therefore, it is not possible to experience such things in this mundane plane without connection with the transcendental world. In this world, we are living with only the shadow of that loving sense, and with the identification of male and female. Sometimes we are trying our best together and with each other to get that essence. And sometimes, for the non-disturbance of this mundane, we are living together with some systematic system for sympathetically dealing with nature, with our hankering for real love. But by our activity here, we are going in a circular way, again and again dying and taking birth. We are taking so many different types of birth in different forms of life, and we are searching, where is love? Where is love? Like a blind fellow searching for the light of the world of dedication. We cannot see where is that world of dedication, but our supreme lover, Krishna, can see everything. Seeing our hankering tendency, he may sometimes distribute his merciful loving light through Sri Guru Vaishnava in order to prepare us to receive a drop of that ecstatic ocean of love. Your letter is very hard as it is attached with the confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Anyhow, I hope that you can understand the meaning nicely. You are fortunate to have the association of a devotional family. It is by service to the devotees, headed by our Srila Guru Maharaj, that the real meaning of the transcendental world can be nicely understood. You can see so much guidance in Srila Guru Maharaj's books, and you can try to follow that. Everyone in honesty wants real love, and Srila Guru Maharaj is preparing us for that by his instructions and advice. So that, the love. Actually, we are telling prema as love. We are giving that translation, but as Srila Gurudev says, it's not a proper translation. Prema is so much more than that, than what we consider as love. In fact, in the Greeks, they made a different word for love of God. It's like a different, categorically different kind of love. And they call that agape. Agape means love of God, or rather God's love for us is more accurately how it is translated. But it is more. Here in this material world, love, everyone says and sings, and love is forever, love never dies, and so on. But our experience is that it does, isn't it? Today I love you, I love you, I love you, and tomorrow I hate you, I hate you. The same person, oh yeah, I really love that person. And then when you actually start to live with that person, you see, never puts the toilet seat down, always leaves the cap off the toothpaste, makes that chomping noise when he eats, and after a while, that person that you loved so much, you just hate them now, just tolerating that. This is love in this world. But still, we as human beings, we can't give up on that idea, that idea of love. Everybody is searching for that, So, and it is like the theme, right, of so many stories and movies and so on, and everybody watches that. I remember once coming home and for somewhere, and I see my wife and my daughters, they're watching some movie on the television, and they're all crying, they're all crying, like, I said, and I'm like, why are you watching this? It's making you cry, they say, oh yeah, some like little explanation, like boy meets girl, and they love each other, and then something comes that, they get separated, he does something wrong, and then it's very sad, and everyone's thinking, like, will they get back together? Will they get back together? And we're hoping for that, and everybody's crying, right? So I said, why don't we just put something else on, like cheer ourselves up? And they're like, no, we've got to see what happens. We've got to see what happens. Yeah. So, there's who was it that said, maybe it was Percy Shelley, the English poet, who said that the sweetest songs are those that tell the saddest tales. So everybody understands that, and unrequited love, that's the very subject of everything. But here in this world, it's always conditional. There's more of a, compromise. Okay, well, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back, and as long as that is continuing, then we call that love. Yeah, okay. But one party stops the scratching, and I'm not sure about that anymore. So, but if there is any pure love in this world, we can say that that's a mother's love for her child, because it's unconditional. Then and we see that a mother, she will, if she sees some impending disaster for her child, like she very, without even a second thought, she'll throw herself in front of the bus or whatever it is to save the child, sacrifice herself for her child. So we can say that this is perhaps the closest thing to real love in this material world. But of course, even that has its limit, right? So you can say, what was it? The Yorkshire Ripper, what was his name? Peter Sutcliffe. So, he was killing all these women. And we can say, pretty sure, that his mother loved him. But, then after a while, when you realize that that person's actually a monster, how far can that love, continue? So even that has its limit in this world. But in the spiritual world, then there is real love. So, often if I'm writing or something like that, we say, here that love with a small L, and there love with a capital L, real love. So they are different from one another. But still, the reason we can't give up on that idea of love is because it's hardwired within our, I won't say our DNA, but our soul. Everyone has within them the necessity to give love and to be loved. That's no one, even the most wicked person, has that propensity for that, and they cannot leave that ideal. But really, that ideal will only have its fulfillment when we engage with the ultimate love, the love which is called Krishna Prema, which is that loving, devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is love proper. So yes, here not quite coming up to that standard. But. And another question: what should be our mood for making real progress in spiritual life? Very good question. Govinda Maharaj's reply. Srila Guru Maharaj said that always we must be humble, and we should try to help our own spiritual lives as well as the devotional faith of the other devotees. This is only possible by the way of Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Suhishnuna, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Shadahari. That is, the Jiva soul is independent, but when he is bound by illusion, everybody must think, I have something. But when he can understand himself properly, then he will think, I am very, very insignificant, and my only hope is the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and my only shelter is my Divine Master. If he thinks in this way, then he will be free from Maya by the blessings of Krishna. We are practicing Krishna consciousness, or we came to practice Krishna consciousness, not for any mundane benefit. Where we shall see the real light of Krishna consciousness, we must really pay obeisance there. If we can preach in this humble way, then no problem will come, and illusion cannot attack us. In this way, all the devotees can cooperate together, just like a noble family. Srila Guru Maharaj said himself that we are all students, Maybe there is some classification, but always we must learn from our Divine Master, from the glorified Vaishnavas, and from the scriptures. After the disappearance of Srila Guru Maharaj, many things have happened in the Western world that are no doubt mostly inauspicious. But if we can see by means of the conception of our Srila Guru Maharaj, then we can collect from there also our supreme benefit. So this is like the advice that we get always, that because Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, he reasons ill who thinks that Vaishnavas die, as Vaishnavas live in sound, and living try to spread the holy name around. So we can still associate with the great Vaishnavas through their books, through the scriptures. The scripture is, after all, the recorded words of the great spiritual masters. So through them we can, through the scripture, we can continue our association with them, and also with the devotees, the god brothers and sisters of our Guru Maharaj. They're also representative of our Gurudev. So, often they say, you can know, if you know the Son, then you can know the Father. So something like that, if we are a good son. Then another question. Now that Srila Guru Maharaj has disappeared from this world, I am feeling very empty. Therefore, I am praying to you for guidance. Srila Govinda Maharaj's reply. After the disappearance of Srila Guru Maharaj, in his separation, so many inauspicious things have happened. And due to that, I am really too much shocked, both mentally and bodily. But by the will of Krishna, there is no other way to spend a single moment without his savour program. Nirjan bhajan, that means, to practice bhajan in isolation, may be possible singly, but Sankirtan is not possible without Vaishnava association. In that way, we are in the proper line of our Srila Guru Maharaj. Until death, we must try to maintain joyful Sankirtan life. We have no other ambition except to be the servants of the Vaishnavas. But when we see our friends madly jumping into the ocean of illusion and becoming puzzled, then we must be afraid of Maya and more tightly embrace the shelter of our protector. Then question, how can I best serve Srila Guru Maharaj? Govinda Maharaj's reply. Srila Guru Maharaj has already instructed you on the highest direction of your service. There is no service anywhere that is comparable to service rendered to Koladweep. And in Koladweep there is no service that is comparable to the service of Srila Guru Maharaj and to his Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. You have the great fortune to have the opportunity to render such direct service. Only very few have such opportunity, and this is not comparable to service rendered in any other quarter. The wealth of the devotee is exclusive devotion to Sri Guru. We are all have so many seniors, and Vrindavan is the land of gurus. But Ananya Bhakti is the exclusive absorption in devotion to my own Srila Gurudev. Srila Guru Maharaj taught this and practiced this, and we are to try and follow in that line. Another question. I am purchasing a building to be used as an ashram here in the West to represent your mott in Navadvip. I am asking your instructions as to how I shall proceed with full earnestness. Srila Govinda Maharaj reply. When we will go to start a new preaching center and want to install the deities for our Savour program, first it is necessary to see that the deity is not a doll, and also that the ashram is a conscious part of the Krishna conception. If we can maintain properly both the deities and the ashram for as long as we live, and longer, then we can start a preaching center. Srila Guru Maharaj disappeared and we all fell down into the ocean of his separation. But Srila Guru Maharaj gave us full direction in the Krishna Seva conception. His divine grace is now living with us in the form of his Dibya Bani, in his divine instructions, and his associates. Now our only hopeful shelter is the lotus feet of his divine associates, servitors, and followers. And sometimes Guru Maharaj, when devotees would ask Guru Maharaj, what is my seva, what is my service? And Guru Maharaj would say, your service is to adjust your consciousness so that you can understand the nature of reality. That is your service. Another question. I am planning to purchase a small facility for an ashram here in our country, and I'm asking for your blessings and advice. Gurudev's reply. Try to preach from your ashram the specific conception of our Srila Guru Maharaj about Krishna consciousness. Also, Srila Guru Maharaj always asked all the devotees to try to serve his deities here at Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mott in a regular way. Preaching is life. Without preaching, Mahaprabhu may not be satisfied. But with preaching, then your enthusiastic program of service must surely become fulfilled, glorified, and joyful. This is my prayer unto the lotus feet of our Divine Master. You see they have some prasadam proof. Another question. My wife is not attracted to chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but she is presently associating with members of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. They chant other names of the Lord. Please can you give some instruction on the difference between chanting Hare Krishna and chanting other names of the Lord? Please explain to her what is the topmost Sampradaya. Gurudev's reply. I am happy to hear that you are sincerely trying to guide your good wife towards the all-fulfilling line of our Srila Guru Maharaj. Chapter 10 of the Search for Sri Krishna nicely presents the glories of the Mahamantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give this Mahamantra as the Juga Dharma for this age, and all of our predecessor acharyas are chanting in greatness. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are clear scientific explanations of the supremacy of Sri Sri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, and Sriman Mahaprabhu established this conception over all others. The Ramanuja Sampradaya is glorious and is presenting pure devotion, but of a lower order than the devotion presented by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift of service to Radha Krishna. The highest goal of seva of the Ramanuja Sampradaya is service of Lakshmi Narayan, which is in Vidhi Marga, and therefore virtually unattainable for the fallen souls of Kali Yuga. However, in Radha Krishna's seva of Vrindavan, the worship is in Raga Marga, and by the grace of Sri Nitai Gaur, everyone has some hope to enter there. The service of Lakshmi Narayan can give up to 2.5 rasas, whereas the Radha Krishna Bhakti can give us the full savour of all 5 rasas. Especially Madhura is found there. It is only possible to get such service from one who is established there in Ragamarga. In the Brahmanda Purana is the following quotation. Sahasra namnam punyanam trera britya tu yatphalam eka britya tu krishnasya namaikam tat prayachchati. 3 times chanting 1,000 names of Vishnu may give the result which can be achieved by once chanting Krishna's name. In Jaiva Dharma, in Sri Nam Namabas o Namaparad Bichar, and in Sri Harinam Chintamani, the glories of the Mahamantra have been chanted. However, it is necessary to maintain our spiritual lives under the guidance of Sri Guru Vaishnava. Otherwise, we cannot progress properly. So many things may come in front of us to cause disturbance. Sri Sri Nitai Gauranga are exclusively distributing this highest gift, and we are to find guidance from their bona fide representative. By sincerely wanting that gift, Sri Krishna will lead us to such a bona fide guide. Other sampradayas may also be chanting Hare Krishna, but they are doing so under a different conception. Some consider that Narayan Loka is the highest, and Krishna Loka is lower than that. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was once by Radha Kund. An important person, a king perhaps, was doing Dandavat Pranam, circumambulating this sacred Kund. At that time, Paramananda Prabhu told Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, they are also worshipping Radharani. He replied that they are worshipping her, but under the impression that Radharani is under the guidance of Krishna, whereas we have the clear conception from Sri Nitai Gauranga, which is quite the opposite. You should both regularly read Srila Guru Maharaj's books and sincerely follow his guidance and advice. Everything is nicely presented by him in a short, conclusive and sweet way. By focusing our energy only there, it will bring the highest transcendental fruit. And then another question. There seems to be a very fine line between reality and illusion. Everywhere I look, I see a forest fire of self-interest. I feel we need some solid, tangible guidelines and encouragement to align us with the current of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Srila Govinda Maharaj's reply. When Srila Guru Maharaj has given to the world, what Srila Guru Maharaj has given to the world is living and is with the highest prospect of fulfillment. He has glorified and distributed pure Vaikuntha Nam. By following the path of pure chanting with service mood, gradually we can connect with the Lord's figure and colour, his qualities, then his associates and paraphernalia, and then his pastimes. We can be given the chance to enter there and be given some duty if we may be blessed by him with some engagement. Srila Guru Maharaj is in front of us and is guiding us in this line. With firm faith, simply we are to follow the process that he is continually describing to us. With this real spiritual connection, the path must take us to where we are welcome as a willing servitor. In the highest position, all labour is a labour of love, and there is no weariness, indifference or hatred there. Srila Guru Maharaj has given such bright promise of that land, and that has drawn the fortunate souls throughout the whole world to his lotus feet. The prospect is great, but no doubt these are difficult times for all the devotees, now that Srila Guru Maharaj has disappeared from our immediate vision. It is a time of test, But Srila Guru Maharaj himself gave assurance that those who are victorious in standing by the ideal, even after the disappearance of their Guru, will be glorified and successful in spiritual life. Another question. I received connection with Srila Guru Maharaj by Ritvik initiation, but my Ritvik Guru has now fallen down. Like others, I feel badly deceived. I am writing to you, please, seeking your advice and shelter. Can you please tell me whether my existing Diksha initiation by that Guru is still valid under these circumstances? What should I do? Gurudev's reply. I'm not aware of the exact circumstances of your own initiation, but I can clarify what is the situation for devotees who may have received connection to Srila Guru Maharaj through the Ritvik process. That is, when a person holds a post as an officer in the government, he may himself be given the duties to appoint others in certain ways and to make all types of arrangements. If he should leave or be ousted from the officer's post, then naturally his authority as a government representative is also finished. However, whatever arrangements he had made and whoever he had appointed during the time of his holding office, all this will still stand and will be recognized by the government as before. But when that officer goes, then those that were being engaged by him may ask, now, what is my duty? For Srila Guru Maharaj devotees, that duty is to serve his central mott and deities, and this is what Srila Guru Maharaj advised to everyone after their taking initiation. Engage in the central service, chant Hare Krishna and preach Srila Guru Maharaj's conception, and if anyone will find any difficulty, then he will ask the chief secretary. Question. What should we think of when chanting japa? Srila Gurudev's reply. I asked Srila Guru Maharaj what we should focus our attention on while chanting japa, whether on the deity form of Krishna, etc. His reply was that we are only to concentrate on avoiding the 10 offences and the 4 namabhas. Everything is in the pure name chanted under the guidance of Gurudev. So if we can chant purely, without offence, then everything will be revealed. We are not yogis, jnanis, tapasis, etc., but we are active devotees aspiring after the pure ideal of our Srila Guru Maharaj. Question. For 2 years now, I've been intrigued by astrology. I am enclosing my birth chart and asking if you can give some advice. Srila Govinda Maharaj replies, Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati were both great Jyotishas, knowers of astrology, but few people know that Srila Guru Maharaj was a great Jyotishi. By the order of Srila Guru Maharaj, I also studied astrology in order to get some understanding, but I am not practicing that. I looked a little at your chart, and I do not know the Western type of astrology, only something of the Eastern system. Although Srila Guru Maharaj knew astrology well, he didn't practice it. Rather, he gave enthusiasm for chanting, reading devotional books, service, etc. And if we can unquestionably follow that line, it will be the best for our future. Question. My wife is not a devotee, and sometimes she gives opposition to my own practicing life. How can I overcome this problem? Also, Srila Gurudev, I wish to ask some further questions. 1. Can you tell me about my past lives, as I've been asked this by colleagues at work? 2. Is Prabhu used only to address initiated disciples? And 3. May we read Srimad Bhagavatam? Srila Gurudev's reply. When Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj first started his Krishna consciousness movement in the West, in America. At that time, he tolerated many things for the sake of the fallen souls. Even he could not take the food to which he was accustomed. But gradually everything came under his control nicely. In this way, we must tolerate everything and know that if it is Krishna's will, it will therefore come gradually to the set right position. With the proper transcendental vision, we can always and everywhere receive enthusiasm to do the savour of our Divine Master. Regarding your first question, which is what, tell me about my past lives, right? That's what it was. Regarding your first question, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sharanagati sang, Purva itihas bulinu sakal, seva shukka peye mane, ami tu tamara tumi to amara, ki kaj apara dane. The meaning is that the Vaishnava doesn't care to remember or think about his past lives. He is fully engaged with joyful Krishna Seva through his Gurudev, and he is satisfied. Secondly, Prabhu is customarily only used as a title for initiated devotees. Once I called him Prabhu by mistake, Srila Govinda Maharaj. Instead of Maharaj, I said, oh, Prabhu. And, oh, sorry, Maharaj, I said, I should have called you Maharaj. And he said, no, actually, Prabhu is higher than Maharaj. If you say it, it means master, my master. Anyway. Thirdly, we can read Srimad Bhagavatam, but cautiously and with the association of a qualified Vaishnava. Otherwise, we may go in the line of sahajya, or imitation. Some of the sections of Srimad Bhagavatam are very helpful for the devotees, but they also must be read with the association of the Vaishnavas. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is given, Jaho Bhagavata Pada Vaishnavarashtane. For the fallen souls of this age, it is better to read the many scriptures of our Srila Guru Maharaj and to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam from a qualified Vaishnava. In our fallen position, Srimad Bhagavatam is always as worshipable as Sri Krishna. We are to pray to it in our heart as his manifestation. Question. I have been involved with the Krishna consciousness movement for several years and have recently had the association of some disciples of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. They have described his teachings and mood, and their association has inspired me, again giving me hope in spiritual life. They have also chanted your glories, and so I am writing to you for your mercy. Srila Govinda Maharaj's reply, it is true that we are most fortunate to have come across the shelter of Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Swami Maharaj, and the association of their devotees. Vaishnava Sangha is giving us the highest opportunity to serve as Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar, as we can directly connect with them, the Vaishnavas. Like the telescopic system, we must send our service through Guru Vaishnava. Service is our life, and in the association of the Vaishnavas, we must get everything. You please try to read the books of Srila Guru Maharaj, especially The Loving Search for the Lost Servant, Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Prapanna Jivanamritam, etc. It is not only that we are to get inspiration, but we need to do something, and that is seva of Sri Guru Vaishnava. From that door, our super fortune will come to take us into the ecstatic ocean of Nama Sankirtan. Question. Here in the cultural environment of the West, it seems necessary to make adjustments for time and place. We must wear the dress of the traditional cloth of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, tilak, etc., to present the teachings of Mahaprabhu. Oh, sorry, that's the question. Must we wear the dress of the traditional cloth of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, tilak, etc., to present the teachings of Mahaprabhu? Please offer me some advice on this matter. Srila Govinda Maharaj's reply. Regarding your question, for householders, what is suitable dress for their duties, they may accept that. For their preaching, what is most suitable may be worn. But at least for arati, for the worshipping of the deities, the dhoti, etc., should be worn. The brahmacharis will more actively maintain the external garments. They are full-time representing the mission and should be recognized as such as far as possible. But for sannyasis, they are to always wear the dress of sannyas. It is absolutely necessary for them to wear at any time the shirt, if it is absolutely necessary for them to wear at any time the shirt, pants, etc., then under those garments their sannyas cloth will be worn. The only time for them not to wear their sannyas garments is in the grave life or death situation. The thread must always be worn. The konti mala, neck beads, must also be always worn. But if necessary, a single thread may be worn at the least. These general guidelines you can follow. We want to favorably present Srila Guru Maharaj, and what is suitable for that we will accept according to the circumstances. In every sampradaya and every religion, there must be some who will misrepresent the teachings or give a bad impression to the public. But that should not hamper our own mission. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada would always establish the super excellence of the pure Gaudiya Vaishnava conception, and he would march onward strongly despite so much heavy opposition. In this way, he established the dignity of his mission. Question. I am a householder and I have one room which is reserved solely for worshipping the Lord and bhajan. My request is, what form should that worship take, and in what way can I improve my sadhana? Sometimes I hear devotees criticizing other devotees, and I feel I must run away and hide so as not to lose respect for them. But Srila Guru Maharaj mentions that our environment is always favorable. I see that the devotees are a part of that environment and should not be criticized. Is this correct? Srila Govinda Maharaj replies, there are 9 kinds of sadhana bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu, Bhaktis Chan, Chen Nava Lakshana. Kriyate Bhagavatyadha, Tanmanye Ditam Uttamam. Archan is one branch of sadhana bhakti, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described that really the path for the fallen souls of Kali Yuga is the congregational chanting of Harinam and also the independent chanting of the Mahamantra. If the fully surrendered souls will try to maintain this practice, then that is enough for that jiva soul, especially in this age. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. Kalo nastyeva, 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 gatir anyata. And also in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kale dosha nide rajan astyeko mahan gunaha. Kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. In order to have more engagement, the Grihastha Bhakta can practice other branches of bhakti, but chanting the name without aparad, called Shuddhanam, can give everything to us. Practically, a real devotee does not criticize anyone. Sometimes they may analyze others and learn from them, but not in the mood of criticism. Also, it is practically to be noted that satsanga, real sadhu sangha, is very rare in this world. When great personalities like Sripad Swami Maharaj and Srila Guru Maharaj will point out others' practice of religion, then that is not criticism, but it is only for the benefit of their associates and followers that they are to be beware of such things. I am trying to answer your questions, but no doubt it may not be possible to cover everything. in a letter. Anyhow, with the guidance of Srila Guru Maharaj given in his books, lectures, etc., and with sincerity of purpose in following them, the proper adjustment to each circumstance will come. Srila Guru Maharaj himself always stressed that we are all students, not masters. So always we are learning how to serve and what is service. Our real wealth and fortune is that we have come across a true guide for our divine prospect. Okay. That's the end of that chapter.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Someone asked Govinda Maharaj about wearing devotional dress, and he said he gave some leeway there for householders, but he said they certainly should for worship of the deity and arti. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
Does that mean attending arti, or just if you're actually on the altar worshipping the deity?
No, it specifically means being on the altar, worshipping the deity on the altar. But also generally, if we are representing our mission, then it's good to dress in the uniform, then as Prabhupada used to say, that you may or may not respect the person, but you have to respect the uniform. So a policeman, when you see his uniform, then automatically you have to give respect. Guru Maharaj said, in the Second World War, he said they had posters. He said he saw in Dalhousie Square in Calcutta, they had posters to recruit people into the army, and because India was part of the British Empire still at that time. Then the poster had a picture of like a Tommy's military uniform, all folded up with the helmet and everything, and it said, and the slogan said, "Wear the uniform will tell you what to do." So it was something like that. Then that's our awareness that, of course, if you do put on the dress, then immediately you're representing the mission. So then you should not. That shouldn't be a casual thing or haphazard sort of thing. I remember we used to have a devotee used to come here, a doctor, a Hindu doctor, I forget his name now. Was it Banerjee or I forget? Anyway, but he, in the time of Sagar Maharaj, used to come here a lot, and there were a couple of our devotees, and he saw them. He was driving in his car, and he saw them at the bus stop. And they were just wearing, jeans, t-shirt like that, but they both had Tulsi Mala on, like prominently showing the Tulsi Mala, and they were like groping each other on the bus stop, like in quite a lewd way, So that doctor, he pulled up his car and he jumped out of the car and he tore off their Tulsi beads, and you're a disgrace to these beads, So, I'm not suggesting that everybody do that, but we should be aware that people see, even just see the Tulsi beads, they can see that, oh, you're a devotee of Krishna. My daughter, when she went to the London Screen Academy after finishing school, this is like a sixth form college, but specifically centered around film and television, and she went there and she said within 3 days, 3 different people came up to her and said, "Oh, you're a devotee of Krishna." They saw a Tulsi bead, said, "Oh yeah, my dad's a devotee of the Bhaktivedanta Manor." They told her, she made some new devotee friends there. But anyway, so yeah, then we should be aware, and also Srila Guru Maharaj he told. That if you're a sannyasi, you should always wear the dress of the sannyasi, unless it's an emergency, Then in some of our devotees, we have devotees in China, and their religion is illegal. And not only is it illegal, that they offer you a reward if you can point out somebody who's preaching religion. So when our devotees go there, they just go in shirt and pants and trousers, and then when they get to the center, they put on their devotional dress. Even the sannyasis that go there, because just by wearing that you could be arrested. So then it's not always a good idea to do that. So I remember seeing a film once about, and in the film they were like Russian Christians in the time of the communist Russia, and instead of chanting on rosary beads, they sewed their rosary beads onto their coat like buttons, and then they would hold the buttons and chant their whatever it is, Hail Mary or whatever, then this way do their rosary on there. I thought that's quite a good way of doing it. So sometimes you have to go as like secret agent, and like that. So in fact, when Gurudev was invited to Moscow, to Russia for a festival there organised by Avadut Maharaj, I went with him that time, and their center in Moscow backs on to the KGB headquarters. They're not called the KGB. What are they called now? The Politburo or something? I don't know. But anyway, it's still the KGB, just under a different name. But where their wall ended, the KGB building was right next door to that. So then we couldn't come to the temple dressed like this. We had to change when we got there. And one of our sannyasis, who was always very enthusiastic, for taking the devotees out for chanting and everything, Avadut Maharaj had to lock him up in one of the devotees' flats so that he wouldn't go out on the street like that, And actually, one of it was in the Daily Telegraph, because it changes. Sometimes they don't mind if they do Harinam, but at one point they made it illegal in Russia. Then one of our devotees, Dandi Maharaj, he was arrested for teaching yoga. It wasn't even directly Krishna consciousness. He had students he was teaching yoga asanas to. It was a big 4-page spread in one of the British newspapers. I think the Sunday Telegraph. I think it was. And now he's kind of lives in exile in India, because if he goes back to Russia, they'll probably arrest him if he comes through. They have him marked up as, So of course, according to the time, place, and circumstance, and sometimes when one of the devotees was coming through here, Heathrow Airport, a sannyasi, and he had his danda with him. And the customs people, they drilled into his danda, to see what might be inside there, And he told Guru Maharaj that, and Guru Maharaj said, not to take your danda if they're going to, abuse that. Not to take it with you. He said, you can keep a danda in all the countries where you preach. Keep a danda there, and then, collect it when you go. So, these things happen. So, yes. What? The offering finished everything? Yeah. Anyone have you have a question, Ram? From what we heard?
I just said, Gurudev said earlier that service in Sri Chaitanya Saraswat is rare to be able to get that service.
Yeah.
But I just feel somehow that we may not take that statement that serious. Was he mentioned that mustn't think of the Thakur as a dog.
Yeah.
And because we don't have the eyes to see, we just think it's a representation.
Yeah.
Because if we could actually see, we would never leave. Who was actually standing behind the curtain.
Of course, yeah.
So I mean, I just wondering why we sometimes don't feel that it's actually a privilege to, you know, sort of.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, like I said last week, I felt jealous because the way people felt, because also some people get the opportunity to serve their Gurudev directly.
Yeah.
So that's obviously rare, and you may never get that opportunity. But I just wondering, like, you know, why we sometimes feel like that.
It's familiarity breeds contempt, as you know, everybody knows that saying, right? And it's very true that when you're very intimately engaged, like in that kind of service, you take it for granted, and also we have this conception that I'm actually helping. You know, because of me, the mission's still going on, or you know, whatever it is. I'm doing them a favor, rather than understanding that to get the service of the Lord is a very rare thing. And when we went to Chaitanya Saraswat Mott, back in the 80s, we had some experience of that, because they wouldn't let us do any service there. They wanted to serve us. They're always, like all the devotees living there, were doing service to us. And then if you would practically have to beg to get permission to do some service, and that would usually be like sweeping up or something like that. And I remember when I was staying there that it was, you know, we considered it like a big privilege that when you were kind of accepted to, you could take prasadam with the brahmacharis instead of being sat down and served by the brahmacharis, which was generally the way. So it was like, oh, you've been accepted now as one of the servitors here. You can serve and be with the brahmacharis there, take prasadam with the brahmacharis. And I remember, you know, it was very difficult. I remember, you know, like they used to have these, what I used to call the missionary cooking pots. These huge, you know, like that you might boil a missionary in, you know, like, these huge pots, like made of iron plates. And one day they gave me the service for like cleaning these pots, you know. And no matter how hard I tried, they kept sending them back. And no, not clean. They're not clean. And you know, because you get like burnt on bits on the bottom of the pan and things like that. They had to all be gone. And I had no idea how to do that, because there wasn't any fairy liquid. There wasn't any scrubby pads. What you got to clean it was mud, ash, and straw. That is what the cleaning implements were. No, not even any hot water. With cold water, you know, trying to clean like that, it's like, it just was ridiculous, you know, like, and 6 times they sent the pot back saying, no, it's not clean. And then after the 6th time, I just like I was crying. I broke down in tears, like, well, I don't know what I can do more, you know, how am I going to get that off with a bit of straw and ashes, you know. Then one of the senior brahmacharis there, Haricharan Prabhu, he took pity on me. And he came and he got a house brick and he broke the house brick in half and gave me half a house brick, and he took half of a house brick, and we scrubbed those pots with a brick, and that finally got it clean, you know, after that. So, but it was a real test for me, you know, like I was really besides myself. Had no idea how to get things clean at all there. So, you know, then, and that was like one of the kind of basic services that you were allowed to do, was washing the pots. If you were allowed to do that, you made it, you know. Then there was a girl there from Iran, initiated girl there, but they wouldn't let her do any like the service that all the other ladies did, was like, you know, making flower garlands or cutting the vegetables and things like that. She wasn't allowed to do any of that. And, you know, she was kind of bewildered as to why she was like barred from that service. And there was one lady there, Manjuali, like a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she went to Guru Maharaj and said, "Oh, this girl, she's initiating everything, but she can't understand why she's not allowed to do any of the services that the other women are allowed to do." He said that's because she's comes from a Muslim family. He said we don't have any bad feeling towards her. We're sure she's a very nice, sincere devotee and everything. He said, but if the local people hear that a Muslim girl is doing the service of the deity, they'll come with a mob to the gate. So we have for the peace of the local environment, we have to follow that rule. And then Manjuali said, but we're also coming from, Mlecha families, our families are cow killers and, all of that, Then he said, yes, but you are mainly coming from Christian background, and Christianity is towards Vaishnavism, whereas Islam is against Vaishnavism. Everything they do is contrary to Brahminical. He said even how they wash before they pray, they wash this kind of ritualistic way. A Brahmin will always wash this way so that the dirt comes off, and they wash and it all run down their arms, so this way. Then he said, and they consider the best food is beef. They consider that to be the best food, and so everything contrary to Brahminical culture. So for that reason, then anyway, that lady was kind of satisfied by that. So it was, a really very strict standard there. And also when I was sent there to learn how to do the puja, because I was a pujari before in ISKCON, but I know that the method was something different. And so when Radhasham Sundar were installed, the sannyasi there in charge, he sent me to Navadvip to learn how to do that, Then at that time the pujari there, his name was Advaita Das Babaji, and he was old, and he didn't speak a word of English. It must have been 80 years old. And it used to take him forever, to walk to the altar, but he's doing it every day. But then the second pujari, who was a young man, a similar age to myself, his name was Prapanna Krishna Brahmachari, who later became Bhakti Prapanna Tirtha Maharaj. So Guru Maharaj said, he'll teach you the puja, or the method of the puja, right? So then the day was coming that, the next day I was supposed to start my lesson and everything with him. So I was getting myself all ready, putting on tilak, bathing, putting on tilak, everything, doing achaman and preparing myself. And then I thought he was going to take me on the altar. No, he took me to his room, and there he had a blackboard, and with a chalk he did a matchstick Krishna, matchstick Radha, with chalk, stickman Mahaprabhu, and like this, and I was like, oh, what is this? Some kind of prejudice, racial prejudice or something. They won't let me go on the altar, And Govinda Maharaj noticed that I was upset by that, Then he said, Prabhu, it's not got anything to do with you. But again, he said, there's two things. One is that there's the deity of Lakshmi Varahadev there on the altar. And that means, he said, that only someone who is a Naistika Brahmachari can do that worship. That means being celibate his entire life and constant his entire life, you understand? Then he said, even I'm afraid to go on the altar with the Lakshmi Varahadev there. Okay. And then he said, but again, if the local people find that there's because that area was a very strong Smarta Brahmin enclave, if you like, where Guru Maharaj's mott is. He said, if they hear that there's a Western man doing on the altar there, again, they'll come with a mob to the gate. So, okay. But so different things, you know, like according to time, place, and circumstance. But it was, you know, like a very kind of lesson when we went there that is not, you're not just being utilized for service. We're taught that service there is like a privilege, an honor that you get that service, you know. And in the West, we have a different idea, you know. We're thinking that we're doing the temple a favor by doing service, but rather it's the other way around. And you know, then you can become contemptful, you know, thinking you may be doing worship of the deity, but thinking the deity is just a statue, not having any real consciousness that they're living people. And because you've never seen them move, they've never spoken to you, you know, then what are you to think? But that's why we have to be Shastra Chaksus, means we have to see through the eye of the scripture that the deity of the Lord is, it says in Prapanna Jivanamritam, anyone who thinks that the Murti, the deity of the Lord, is an idol, it said that the verse says, they're no better than a diabolical devil. To see that, thinking that there's just some statue, some wooden statue. And even you go to many Hindu temples and they call their deities idols. The idols, they say, they refer to them as the idols. But we do not accept the idolatry. We are not idol. They are Srimurti. We say Srimurti or Archa Vigraha, is that Lord himself. And although we don't have the vision to see that, by our faith we understand that. So that's why Guru Maharaj would sometimes say, your service is to adjust your vision. Adjust your vision. So, you know, we can only see paint and stone and, you know, marble and all of these things, but the Lord is residing there, and we have to adjust our vision to that and be reverential, in a reverential way. So, you know, then all these things are there in, you know, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and you can read them in Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, his summary translation of that. There's many passages about what's considered to be offense to the deity. You know, pointing your feet at the deity, passing air in front of the deity, many things, talking gossip in front of the deity, all of these things, mundane things that are, you know, to avoid those things. It's good to understand that, because they're for our protection. And if we're very strict about that in our service, then, you know, we'll get some grace from that. But well, we should try to understand what a great privilege it is to get the service of the Lord, because the service that we do here, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, the service that you do here is not different from the service in Vaikuntha. The only difference is your perception of it. Srila Govinda Maharaj, in a talk with the devotees in Russia, he told to the devotees there, you do not know who you are, you cannot see, but I can see. And I can see that you are all liberated. So, you know, then we have to have some faith in that also. In what our Gurudev has given us is the whole thing, you know, the temple shouldn't be considered just to be like a house of brick and stone and glass and all of those things. It's the Vaikuntha. It is Vaikuntha, because it has been utilized in the service of the Lord. And this is what Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he said, my London mott is another room in my Navadvip mott. So, you know, then we are to try and honor that vision, you know, see and try and develop that vision ourselves. This is divine, everything divine. Every part of the temple is divine because it's an expansion of Baladev. Baladev, the first expansion of Krishna, and he expands himself as the Lord's Singhasan, the altar, the mridanga, the kartal, the everything, all the paraphernalia is all chinmoy. It is all coming from Baladev for the worship of the Lord. So we should always try and maintain these ideals. Although we are not able to, have a direct perception of that, we perceive these things through the eye of our faith. And that's what it means. Shastra Chaksus means to see through, not through your flesh eye, but through the eye of the scripture, what has been given by the saints and the previous masters. We are to see that. That should be how we develop our own vision. There has to be some development of our own inner life there. Not just, otherwise it is contemptuous, to be contemptuous towards these things. So we have to try to practice and try to adjust our vision. But still, and it's true, if you could see who you're serving, there'd be no question that you would ever leave. It's just impossible. But we don't see that, do we? Not only that, not even that we can see Krishna, but we can see that this house is Srila Govinda Maharaj's house, Srila Guru Maharaj's house. Then we're just servants here. Don't belong to us. We're thinking, oh, this is my room and this is my stuff and this is my, but no, you shouldn't see that at all. I'm only here by his grace and I'm here as his servant. So if you have that consciousness, then you'll keep everything beautiful. Because if your Gurudev is coming, wants to use the bathroom, he's not going to go in there if it's a real hole, isn't it? Oh, filthy. Oh, my Gurudev may want to use this, and so we keep it clean. And everything like that. We see that. This is my Guru's house. And I have to try and honor that. Keep it ready for him, for whenever he will come, to utilize that. So that's why Gurudev said, Guru Maharaj said, your service is to adjust your vision, to try to connect with the vision of the reality. Otherwise, what is it? What is our reason for doing anything?
So did they not have any preaching program for the locals? We hear often people say, oh, this is my culture and this and that, but we don't see them actually following their culture. Like we say, that, like the thing about the Muslim girl, just because she's Muslim, she's turned her back on that. And so she should be given every opportunity to serve the Lord, because that's what we're all here for.
Yeah, of course. But
we're not this body.
But Guru Maharaj always having to make some adjustment for the local environment. So for that reason, it had to, because outside of India, he didn't have any problem with that. You'd never see ladies doing the puja in a temple in India. But over here, no problem. They can do. But in India, because it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. In Indian culture, people are mistaken if they think that Indian cultural is patriarchal. It's actually matriarchal. Because in every family, there's always a matriarch there, and everybody bows down to her. And although, legally only a man can own property and everything, but they never cross the mother or grandmother or any of these things. You see, Mr. Modi, and he comes to take his mother's feet before he does anything. In many places, many times you can see that. So This is how Guru Maharaj said, the Brahmin's mother, she cannot touch the deity, but the son, who is doing the worship of the deity, first he will come and take the dust of his mother's feet before he does that service. So you know, even the formality may seem to be, you know, a patriarchal setup, but actually the real substance is completely matriarchal, and with the proper honor to the women. Srila Guru Maharaj said, when I was growing up, he said, because I read many things in the scriptures, negative things in the scriptures about the women, and I'm thinking, he said, I developed some kind of bad attitude towards thinking I should avoid women and everything, you know. He said, but my auntie noticed that in me, and she told me, don't you understand that they are actually the representative of Lakshmi Devi, the feminine side of the... Then Guru Maharaj said, then I had to like completely change my vision. And they are honored for the sacrificing nature. Woman has very sacrificing nature. And men are the problem with their male ego. This is a big problem. The female nature is much more suitable for devotion than the male ego. And Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say, I have so many good daughters, but not many good sons. So, and you know, I mean, he did have 3 daughters from his marriage when he was married, but he wasn't talking about them, he was talking about his disciples. I have no problem, and so many good daughters, but not very many good sons. They are always giving trouble for me. So yeah, we have to try to honor that. But you know, what you were saying about, do they have, you know, programs to educate the local people? You can't change a culture there. You know, Srila Sridhar Maharaj himself, he was brought up in a Smarta Brahmin family. And he said, from my father's side, they hated Mahaprabhu because they considered that he'd caused havoc in the society. Before, you know, because Mahaprabhu didn't recognize casteism, or untouchability, none of that. So then everyone mixing together of all different Varna, Ashram, all of that, mixing together in Mahaprabhu's religion. But previous to that, there was a very strict hierarchical system. Brahmins didn't mix with other castes. And, you know, when kings would send their sons for education in Oxford or Cambridge, they had to come with their Brahmin cook, would have to come with them. They're not eating anything else. Only the Brahmin cook would have to come with them, and so you know, this was the culture in India. And so for this reason, the Smartas, they didn't like Mahaprabhu because he didn't accept any of that, you know, external thing. And so he said, and Guru Maharaj said, I only learned about Mahaprabhu through my mother's side of the family. They were devotees of Mahaprabhu, but not my father. And he said, because of that, he would say, even now I feel like I'm in the vanguard of the rebels. You know, so it was very difficult for him. Gurudev said that, you know, it was very difficult for Guru Maharaj even to give up his Brahmanism. And he said that was only, you know, he was very strict. Because I said to to Govinda Maharaj once, oh, I wish I could have seen Guru Maharaj like in the days when he was going for preaching and, you know, like all of that. And Gurudev just laughed at me and he said, oh, you wouldn't have been able to stay, Prabhu. I said, what do you mean, Maharaj? He said, Guru Maharaj was so strict, first of all with himself, but anyone that lived with him had to come to that same standard. And he said, nobody could do that. He said, I can count on one hand how many devotees could actually live with Guru Maharaj, you know, because his standard was so high. And so when they you know, they established the Chaitanya Saraswat Mott, and one lady, she gave like her children's inheritance, she gave to Guru Maharaj after her husband died. She was very, come from a very high Brahmin family. And then we're talking, you know, like back in the 1950s now. So, you know, things were different to how they are even now. But her daughter had got divorced in her marriage, and because of that, she instead of giving her inheritance to her, she gave it to Guru Maharaj. And she was very wealthy, but then she wanted to come and live in the mott. And up until that time, no women lived in the mott. It was only brahmacharis, sannyasis living there. Then she asked Guru Maharaj, can I come and live I want to give my life, I want to, you know, then. And at that time, she was like in her 30s and extremely beautiful. And I saw photographs of her when she was a young woman. A really beautiful woman. And Guru Maharaj said, no, that's impossible that a beautiful young woman will come and live with brahmacharis, and it will just cause havoc. So then, but she wouldn't accept that. So what did she do? She shaved off all her hair and smashed all of her teeth out. And then she came to Guru Maharaj, like, you know, now, is that okay now? And Srila Govinda Maharaj said Guru Maharaj's heart broke when he saw that. He said he couldn't refuse her. She had to come. There, they made some place for her, and she lived there. Her name was Krishnamoi. And Guru Maharaj said of Krishnamoi, said she is fully self-realized person, fully self-realized in Krishna consciousness. So yeah, then. And but Srila Govinda Maharaj said that was the day that Guru Maharaj left his Brahmanism. After that, so you know, then what to speak of Guru Maharaj? Then you can't change that whole of the nature of the society like that. And for a long time, like I said, that area where Srila Sridhar Maharaj's temple was mainly smarta Brahmins lived in that area. So then Guru Maharaj, to keep the peace, he had to make some compromise with them. And that was that he had to show a very strict standard. But at the same time, Guru Maharaj's vision was very universal. So outside of, like here in London, we asked Guru Maharaj, can the ladies do the puja and that? And he'd say, yes. Yes, we have no objection to that. Yes, they can do. So, like that. And also, they can lead the kirtan. Yes, they can lead the kirtan. All of these things. Guru Maharaj's vision was very strong. But also, he was very pragmatic and practical. What was practical there? Like there in India, like here, you get a lot of tax breaks if you register as a public place of worship. But Guru Maharaj never did that with Chaitanya Saraswat Mott. He said, because although you get all the tax breaks and all these things, but then the government want to use your property for something, you know. Like if there's an election, they want to make your temple as a polling booth or polling station, or, you know, this thing or that thing, install something there. They wanted to install, in the mott, they wanted to install some kind of telephone exchange thing, you know, like telephone masts and stuff. But Guru Maharaj refused. But if they were a public place of worship, then they couldn't refuse for things like that, you see. So although it was, you know, there were the advantages of it, Guru Maharaj wanted to keep it as a private place of worship. And Gurudev followed the same standard as that, always. So yeah, anyway. Hare Krishna. Time for arati. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Rupa Nuga Guru Bhagya ki jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari.